Hi everybody, how are you today? I wanted to provide you with another video which might help you with your text analysis. I recognize that this is not an easy thing for people to do when they've never done it before. So I actually wanted to model for you how you might go about it. This is usually my thought process when I'm analyzing a text. A couple things to bear in mind when you're doing this. I realize that there are a set of instructions for the assignment. I think what's really important for you is not to feel like you have to accomplish all of the steps of the assignment at once. You really need to break things down because there are in fact multiple operations that are occurring in the process of text analysis. Alright, so first of all, finding a text. For those of you who don't have a text to work with and need something for analysis, ushistory.org/textbooks. You can get some free textbooks online, and this will at least give you something to work with. Okay, a book called Ancient Civilizations, and we've got the table of contents. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dive right into a chapter. Obviously, you're not to be choosing the same chapter as me. But basically any of the techniques that I show you today can be applied to pretty much any text. Okay, so prehistoric times, I Love Lucy. Looks very interesting. So what we have is a passage of text, and you can see obviously the graphics, which are indeed learning aids. These are things that are necessary for creating meaning. Sometimes you'll hear a linguist talk about language that is grounded. That is to say that there is some connection between the word and the thing that the learner can see in the environment. And when you have pictures, this picture is tied to something in the text. And what we find here is that. So this would be an example of grounded language. And ESL teachers want to build into their lessons as many grounding points as possible to make things more meaningful. That was just an aside. So what I'll do is I'm actually just going to skip the first one. I haven't quite processed why, but I'm going to skip the first sentence, and I'm just going to select text down below, basically the meat of the article. I'm going to paste it into my word processor. Okay, so the purpose of text analysis at this level is really to look at the accumulation of sentence structures. There's this basic argument that Chapagrel makes, which is that each different genre, and specifically the genre of school textbooks, and in particular each subject within school textbooks, has its own style of writing. I think some of you might be familiar with the term format, and essentially we are looking at format. We linguists obviously use different terminology, but basically what we want to do is we want to find patterns of grammar across the sentences and in the sentences that typify what a history textbook is and how those patterns of grammar match up to ideas. So one of the things you can be doing is to basically break apart the paragraph so that you can see each sentence clearly in its own right. I do this a lot for ESL students when I am looking at their actual essays. If they've typed up an essay, I often require them to bring that essay to me in a word processor, and I break apart their essay sentence by sentence. What this does is it removes all the clutter around the thing that I want to focus on. Therefore, I am capitalizing on the capacity for attention, and I am removing any distractions. Okay, Some learners might require 4 or 5 spaces in between. Okay. All right. So one of the things that we try to look at is how the sentence unfolds. Does the sentence start off with just straightforward, the subject comes first, then comes the verb, and then comes the direct object? All right. And what we have in the first sentence in the paragraph is indeed, broadly, the subject comes first, and then the verb comes, and then we have everything after the verb, which you'll call, there's the predicate in school book speak, and we have that there. So it basically follows a very basic pattern of subject, verb, and object, and then indirect object. Okay, and then we see a parentheses, and then we see, look, another subject, a verb, and a direct object. Okay, so far the sentence structure seems pretty consistent across the first 2 sentences. So the first operation when we're looking at these sentences, after identifying the sentence structure, is to go, is the sentence structure the same from one sentence to the next? And basically all we're doing is asking our mind to say, is it same or different? Okay, so in a sense, this is same. This is basically the same sentence structure. Look, then we move on to the third one, and it's the same sentence structure. They were celebrating the discovery of the oldest known hominid ancestor. So we have 3 sentences in a row which broadly follow subject, verb, direct object, and indirect object. Okay, this is predictable, or I shouldn't say predictable, this is canonical word order in English. Okay, and it's, I would assume, for many people, it's fairly easy to process. Okay, especially when learners are getting numbers of sentences that are all following the same structure. But look at sentence number 4. Is it the same or different as the first 3 sentences? And in fact, the answer is no, it's not, because the sentence does not start with a subject and then follow to the verb. All right. We have this adverbial clause. Okay. Now don't worry about calling it an adverbial clause yet. All you need to do is recognize that it's either the same or different. Okay. And start, one of the things you can do, if this helps you, is just to group the sentences that all follow the same structure. Okay. All right. So we've got a bunch of sentences that all seem to follow the same structure. Okay. And then we have other sentences that follow a different structure. Now, see this one? Which one is it like? I would argue, at least without thinking, that these 2 sentences seem to have a similar type of structure. Okay. What we find is different texts for different levels of readers are going to have different proportions of sentence structures. Okay, this is a more complex sentence structure. Okay, and it's also what we call non-canonical. Okay, and more basic readers, targeted for lower level audiences, that is to say lower in grade level, or readers who are new to the language, are going to have more sentence structures that are like this and fewer that are like this. But when you get to the New York Times, for example, you're going to find a different proportion of these. Okay, and this is what we mean by genre-specific characteristics of a text. Okay? And what we also see in this text, idiosyncratically I would argue, are these little rhetorical questions. You don't see these rhetorical questions in a lot of other types of texts. Okay? So this, once again, is another characteristic of this text. I mean, 4 within the first 250 words it tells you something about the text. Okay? It tells you that the text is trying to set a relationship with the reader, and it's doing so through little grammatical techniques, or grammatical and therefore stylistic techniques, such as this. Okay. So I will just continue separating out sentences and basically playing the old same and different game. Okay. All right. So as you train yourself to do this, I would suggest that the same and different game that we've just played is a really good little training tool for you.